record.
All right, one of the most common ways to put pressure on a composite part is to use a vacuum bag. Today I'm going to illustrate how to do this. If you notice, I have a plate right here, and this plate has been coated with what we call free coat, which is a release film. Composites normally have adhesives. They will stick to this and it won't release, so I've already coated this with what we call free coat. The next thing is I want to make a perimeter around the part that I'm going to be bagging. This is the part that I'm going to bag. I'll put it here. And I need to make a perimeter out of tacky tape. Now if you notice, tacky tape, just this yellow adhesive tape, it comes with a backing on it. And I'm going to make a perimeter around the part, but it's going to be a lot larger than the part. And all I'm going to do is simply take it, stick it down. But something that I want to show you that's important is I don't want to tear the tape here and make two different runs. What I want to do is actually make it, I'm going to tear this little backing and make it curve. Because if you tear the tape and it doesn't have a continuous flow, we have an area where it can leak. And if you notice here with the camera, I made it roll around. There's not two pieces. This is still one piece that comes all the way around. And I'm going to do that around the whole perimeter of the part. When I get to this end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tear the backing a little bit so that it's easier to work with. And then I'm just going to simply kind of roll it around. And I can always put this backing back on top of it. And it's just a protector. Now I'm going to do this for the entire perimeter of the part.
You're on.
Alright, to do a simple bag coming out of the Bowen SRM, we're going to use three different materials. The first is what we commonly call peel ply. Peel ply acts as a release. It's going to make it so that when the adhesive here cooks and cures, then I'm able to get it back out. The peel ply is going to need to be larger than the part and to cover the whole part. And as you notice, I'm going to have to trim it to make it fit inside of the perimeter I made of tacky tape. Again, this acts as a release. The next material that goes over is called a bleeder breather, and it looks like a piece of cotton. It also goes over this whole part, and again, I'm going to have to trim it so that it fits within there. But the purpose of this is it allows a uniform vacuum to pull all the way across the part. This should cover everything right here. Now notice it's bigger than the part. The part itself stops about right here. I'm going to get it real close to my tacky tape because I'm going to have a couple of ports when I get ready to pull vacuum that are going to need to sit down, and I need room between my tacky tape and the part itself. And then finally, the last thing that we're going to have is the bagging film itself that goes over the top. This is a nylon bag. It needs to be rated at a higher temperature than what the part is going to cure at. For example, if my adhesive on my part is 250 degrees, then my nylon bagging film needs to be at least 250 degrees, preferably a lot higher. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, as you can see now, I have this cut so that it fits inside of my tacky tape. And if you notice, the peel ply goes down first because, again, it acts as a release from any adhesive that we're going to have on the part. And then I have the bleeder breather that's going to go on the top of it. And again, you want your bleeder breather to come out close to your tape line because we need a room for those ports. So what I'm going to do now is get ready to place the ports, and they simply twist off. And you can have a male or a female in. Here's another example of one here. But where the ports go, we normally need two pieces of bleeder breather. And the reason for that is it's going to be compressed down, and I'm going to need another small piece up under here so that it doesn't compress to the point that I can't get a good vacuum. All right, stop right. All right, so I have an extra piece of bleeder breather I'm going to put down here and put my port on. And because I'm going to put two ports in this bag, I'm simply doing it twice. And again, this is off the part, it's not on the part. And this needs to be directly on top of the other bleeder, again, so that we get a good vacuum or it's able to breathe or bleed all the way across the part itself. Now, at this point, I've got my peel ply on for release, and I have my bleeder breather on top of it. It's time for the nylon vacuum bag itself. This particular part's going in the autoclave, and I have the nylon vacuum bag. And what I'm going to do, I want it larger than the part. If you look, I've actually covered my whole plate with it. And the reason for it is I'd rather have too much bag than not enough. But I'm going to try to start on one corner and stay even all the way down. I'm going to bring my bag approximately 3 to 4 inches larger than the part. And I'm going to try to keep it straight. And all I'm going to do is lightly push down the bag on top of that tacky tape. Now I'm not really putting a lot of force, because if something happens and you get a wrinkle that you want, if you don't put a lot of force to start with, it pops right back up. So again, I'm going to start pushing here lightly, and then I'm going to reach up under. I'm slowly coming down, and I'm going to pull this tacky tape backing off, and I'm going to come right down the part. And again, keep in mind, you want to keep this even so that your bag doesn't rotate on you. Again, just lightly going down. Keep it straight here, trying to keep the wrinkles out, all the way down the part. And again, if something happens and it wrinkled on you, it's something bad, because we hadn't put a lot of pressure, it pops right back up. So again, it's coming back, lightly coming down the part. And again, the reason that we rotated the tape was so that we didn't have an overlapping piece here and our piece for a gap. So now I'm just going to simply do the same thing. I'm going to come vertical, but again, I'm going to try to keep this thing straight, because as you get working on one side, it's very easy for this to rotate. Alright, are you ready?
Yep.
Alright, I'm going to continue with the tacky tape, and I'm pulling the backing off, again trying to keep this straight, and lightly pushing down with my finger. That's all I'm doing, all the way up. You notice I got a little wrinkle here myself, but again, because I haven't put a lot of pressure on it, it's not real hard to simply lift it back up. I'm going to come to the front side of the table. I'm going to work down this way. Now, you can tell that there's somewhat of a wrinkle here starting. What I can do is I can shift it a little bit, but I'm probably going to need to add a pleat at the end, which will be on the next video. But for right now, I'm simply going to pull it tight, come right on back down. Get my tape back out of the way. Tie here, and again, just lightly pushing down all the way. A little bit of a wrinkle there. Again, it's not that big a deal at this point, because it's really easy for me to pull it right back up. And now I'm just going to finish my bag by lightly going around it, pushing it down with my finger, trying to stay out of the way of the camera view. Now, if you noticed, I didn't keep it completely straight because I have a wrinkle here. Now, I only have one wrinkle, but because of that, I can add what they're called a pleat. You'll see in the next video. All right, as you can see, I have a small wrinkle here. Actually, I have a pretty large wrinkle here. But what I'm going to do is take a small piece of tacky tape, it's commonly called a pleat, and I'm going to try to insert it into the original piece, like so. And you notice I still have the backing on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it down. And as I bend it down, I'm going to try to use up some of the extra bag. Now, if you notice, I can pick this up and fold it up under, and for lack of better words, pinch down that extra bag. It's probably going to be hard for you to see because I'm having to get the backing off here without trying to remove what I just did to the bag. All right, can you see that? Mm-hmm. Right there. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over or pinch the top, got my gloves stood, and I'm going to pull it back this way, like so, to use up the extra bag that I have. And now I have a nice crease on the inside, but it's sealed up here on the outside. All Alright, now I have everything put together. I have my pleat put in. I need to be able to put the vacuum to it. And again, I put the bottom half of the ports inside of the bag. And now I'm going to put the top half. But if you notice, it has a barb here. What's going to happen, I'm going to have to cut the top of the bag, place this inside of the bag, and twist. So what I'm going to do to cut that is I got a regular pair of conventional scissors. I'm going to take and make a very small incision right in the center here. And then I'm going to take the barb, line it up, and I'm going to push straight down on it. And this is a part that's important. You need someone to help you a lot of times, but you want to keep the bag itself as straight as possible when you twist, because if you don't and you twist, a lot of times the bag will stretch up under and you'll get a leak there. So I'm going to try to keep it as straight as possible. I'm going to push down and I'm going to twist with the top to lock it in. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. Now that we have both of our gauges in, one of them normally reads the amount of pressure that we have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to hook up my vacuum, and you'll see it immediately sucks down. Now, what we typically do at this point is we listen to see if there's leaks, right? You can go around, push down on the tacky tape by yourself. A lot of times where you put the pleat at, you get a leak, especially if you don't bend it over at the top. I don't hear any right now, but again, I'm going to go and put my pressure gauge on it and look in my SRM and see what the minimum pressure is and what I actually have. That's good. Now, another way to tell if you've got a leak is by watching the gauge when you remove the pressure. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the bag here and see if I can't create a small leak. I think I just did, because I have a nice wrinkle here now. And if I remove this, you should see the gauge go down.